I thought I'd do now a little update on the Space Elevator project since every time I sort of go back to the ideas of materials and things and like how we should go about the process of constructing it and like how exactly we're going to build all these stages with these jet engines and then rocket engines eventually and ion thrusters out into space and all this sort of thing that in my mind strikes me as the most ideal way to go about building the various stages of this thing. Like, for all I know, I'm wrong, and I do need really more people on board with me. And hopefully, if I give this lecture at the International Space Elevator Consortium's conference, then I will entice a lot of passionate scientists and engineers and organisations who could potentially give me funding to cluster with me around this project and work on this. Connect with like-minded people who are interested in building a space elevator as I am, and so on and so forth. So in preparation for that, what I'm doing is I'm trying to explore to the fullest extent that I can the technical requirements of the project, the specifications with which it will be built, and the challenges that it will have to overcome, the opportunities, threats, etc., strengths, weaknesses, the sort of SWOT analysis stuff, which again, like the whole thing, like it will be an ongoing SWOT analysis that evolves, and again, like a lot more people have to work on it because I just can't do everything on my own. Like I have deficits in skill. I have the vision of the project, which is very important. That's like the sort of the guiding thing of the project, what it will end up looking like, how it will end up functioning. But I don't have, for instance, the ability to produce computer models of the structure before we ever go about building it. And on a level, it's not a pressing issue, not really, since I'm given a time frame of 2040 to build this thing by, so it's 14 years. And I've even been thinking of other things like sort of constructor ships we'd have to build to try and rise up and with a construction platform to place the various stages of the first stage up at the relevant height. And I'm thinking of like a huge balloon ship of some description with a very large vertical helium lift balloon with jet engines pushing it upwards and carrying components of the structure up to the relative height to allow us to build that high. That's one element of the thing we have to consider also, since like we couldn't construct it necessarily quite like we could construct a skyscraper, if you see what I mean. Well, maybe we could even. It's, in terms of multifaceted ideas, projects, it really is, it's a sort of singular thing. We simply have never built something this big. That's the thing. Well, we built bigger machines than this. The largest machine we've ever built is the Large Hadron Collider, and that's something like 32 kilometers in diameter. So it's enormous. In terms of its, I can't in my head math what its circumference is. I can't, like it must be about 60 or 70 kilometers long. So that is fairly big. So on a level, it's not all that much bigger than the Large Hadron Collider. If you were to like untether the Large Hadron Collider and lay it out straight, horizontally, if you were to put it into a straight line, it'd probably be about 75, 80 kilometers long or something like that. It's probably. But this is going up vertically into the atmosphere, into the stratosphere and the mesosphere, and ultimately into space. So it's substantially more challenging than the Large Hadron Collider, I think. In terms of how much it's going to cost, the honest to God answer is I have no idea. No idea. I know that the International Space Station costs $150 billion to build. And that is a rather large undertaking in space. It's one of the largest undertakings in space we've ever done. This, however, is orders of magnitude larger than that. So we're going to require a substantial number of rocket launches to launch the second stage into low Earth orbit, and to maintain it there, and for it to dangle cable down to the first stage. Very tricky, you know, really, like, but these things are so worth doing. I think even if it's a failure, well, I mean, it can't fail. That's the other thing about it. Like, if we're going to do it, we've got to do it right, and we've got to make sure it never breaks, basically. And if it does break, that we can repair it. And I sort of joked to myself that I wanted a big file in the Astrodyne rocket jet offices, just with on the spine saying avoidance of fuck up, and like to have this as the health and safety document. But I'm just imagining how big that file would end up being, all the various safety protocols we need to involve in the project, for like if a sensor goes wrong, needs replacing, if some engine suddenly cuts out, like how many engines exactly per stage are we going to need to keep it operational, to keep it being stable, so that it's got thrust vectoring with the engines to keep it stable and prevent too much tension and on the structure, to prevent it just snapping a part of it, and so on, and then the upwards thrust to maintain that ideal compressive strength on the structure, or to eliminate compressive strength to the optimum level, so we can use very lightweight materials like carbon fiber reinforced polymers. And I think of the expense of building 150 or 60 kilometre long tall structure out of carbon fiber reinforced polymers, quite how expensive that will be. That would be really rather expensive indeed. Steel provides a lot of compressive strength, however steel is very heavy compared to CFRPs, carbon fiber reinforced polymers. CFRPs are somewhat more challenging to machine than steel, to really quite a great extent. Steel will be really rather cheap. Aluminium might be possible. It might be possible to build it with aluminium. Aluminium, however, as we all know, doesn't really provide a great deal of compressive strength. But then again, if we're invoking jet engines to eliminate compressive strength, exactly how much compressive strength do we need? So could we therefore cut down on the price of all these CFRPs and so on, or even carbon fiber reinforced thermoplastic polymers, CFTRPs, which doesn't even have a Wikipedia page, so I can't really read up on it. I can probably read up on somewhere online and actually read the research pages and not Wikipedia. And maybe I shouldn't use Wikipedia, but I do have a habit of using Wikipedia from time to time. So there's that also. This is devilishly tricksy, this is. This is a really hard thing to do. This is a major challenge in engineering. Like only a mental person would consider doing this. So, where am I at with it? Okay, it probably need jet engines, a ring of jet engines, let's say, and a substantial lift balloon about once every 250 to 500 meters. So it would be built in stages of about half a kilometer each stage, which is big and heavy, and heavier than most aeroplanes. So we probably couldn't merely use turbofans from your average jet aircraft. Or if we're using CFRPs, like how much would it weigh? I don't know also that. And how much would the lift balloon, the lift balloons would lift some of it to some extent, and you get this diminishing returns effect as you build higher and higher, up to 120,000 feet, below the sort of ceiling where lift balloons just become totally useless. about 150,000 feet or so. So yeah, like at the lower stages, lift balloons will be really rather useful and remove quite a great deal of compressive strain. And CFRPs, like if you could build the whole thing out of that, or even CRTFPs, sorry, TRPs, thermoplastic reinforced polymers, which are easier to manufacture and more elastic, I think, and a bit easier to machine and construct things out of. And there's like some even more advanced materials that solve some of the inherent issues with CFRPs, and CFRPs aren't perfect. There's like PEAK, for example, which I don't even know what that stands for because I haven't looked into what it is yet. But that's even more expensive. And then there's things which have high compressive strength, but are probably too heavy to use. Because we're looking for the strength to weight ratio, this ideal strength to weight ratio, which CFRPs like quite neatly sort of accommodate for. So it's tungsten carbide or something, which has a really high compressive strength, is really heavy. And you know, if you just build a huge tower of tungsten carbide, like you can only build it so high before it starts melting at the base. Just due to all this compressive strength, basically causing the atoms to oscillate too much, and it melts, and you just get a pool of lava. And you can build with diamond. We can't build with diamond, obviously. It's just not possible. Like not with any technology that we have at our disposal. But if you could build with diamond, you build it about 60,000 feet or so before it would melt at the base. And you just have a streaming puddle of liquid diamond and a huge tower going whack, like that. Of course, if you had diamonds and jet engines, removing compressive strength from the diamond structure, then you could build higher. It's a really, what this does do, this idea, this works in principle. The theory works. Whether or not this works in practice remains to be seen. It's just a whole other ballgame. There's a million challenges we're going to have to overcome. Is it worth attempting? Of course it is, I think. I certainly think it's worth attempting. I think what we learn from it could change civilization almost and bring us into a new era of space exploration, one where getting to space is far more routine and easy and cheaper. And we have this ancillary method of getting to space. Ancillary is not quite the right word, but this, or auxiliary really, like this additional method of getting to space that is easier than rockets, and it would complement rocket technology. What we'd probably be doing is living in a civilization where we have the space elevator running constantly, bringing things to and from space and people to and from space, while also launching rockets. Because like the thing about launching a rocket is we'd probably want to be doing that more routine as well in the future, I think. If I've got the right sort of thing, like, if I'm imagining the future correctly, I think that's what we want to be doing. Because like we can't go and build a space elevator every day. We can't build an arbitrarily large number of space elevators because there's probably not an infinite number of ideal locations on the planet to build them. And as I said, it is going to be hugely costly, and we just simply can't build it every day. But once we're getting all this stuff to and from space using the space elevator, we're probably going to want more people in space and more stuff in space. So I think we'll also still be launching rockets and trying to reuse those rockets. So, like I said, railroads and airlines. Because like with a railroad, like you can't build a railroad everywhere. Also, like a railroad isn't useful everywhere. It's useful as infrastructure. It's really useful as infrastructure in the right locations, but it has a certain capacity, which isn't infinite. And there's the sky as well, that if it were just empty of aircraft, would go sort of unexploited, unused to its fullest potential. Likewise with cargo ships on the sea, you know, it would kind of ruin civilization if we didn't have cargo ships, if you see what I mean. It would make international trade basically impossible. Likewise, if we removed any significant part of our infrastructure. So in terms of building infrastructure for space, I think the space elevator would be very important, but the rocket would also be important. So like the same sort of functions, carrying cargo, etc. But yeah, would just complement the other infrastructure, if you see what I mean. Because, you know, we carry cargo with planes, we carry cargo with ships, we carry cargo with trains. But, like, if you want to haul a bunch of coal, you can use a ship or a train, but you can't really use an aircraft, if you see what I mean. So on a level, like the type of cargo that it would be taking would be different. Yeah, so I think it's a necessity for that reason. It also opens up a multi-trillion-dollar industrial prospect, which is the mining of asteroids in the asteroid belt, going out there and mining it. And that's what we'd be bringing back using the space elevators. I think there'll eventually be more than one. Eventually. I see this happening. I really see this happening. Like if China are planning on doing it, Japan are planning on doing it, they've got extraordinarily talented engineers who I'm sure, you know, are able to crack this problem along with engineers in the West. You know, I don't see, you know, that as being problematic necessarily, but I do need help with this. I'm a human being after all. I have a limited capacity. I read as often as I can. I really do. I put in like a lot of hours into my education, into my research, really on this thing, and I make it my business to learn as much as possible about materials and propulsion systems and just engineering in general and physics and the physics of it and all the rest. And I try, I do, but ultimately I need people to like bounce ideas off of things. You can do that in the comments section, but I think it might need to be built out of something like aluminium to save on money, aluminium to some extent, and hopefully aerospace grade or space grade aluminium can take some compressive strain, which it can. It'll be cheaper than CFRPs, and then we'd have CFRPs for the bulk of the compressive strain plus the rigidity of it, because aluminium's rather bendy. So aluminium, because in relative terms quite cheap, CFRP is a hybrid structure, one providing stiffness, one providing just a little bit of cost benefit saving, maybe, and yeah, a bit of rigidity, and the jet engine's doing the work of lift, along with the lift balloons, obviously. That makes it to this stage, using these sorts of design principles is by far going to be the most challenging part of this. And because of the micrometeorite problem, I think it would be somewhat problematic to use even space grade aluminium in the mesosphere, possibly. Since it would degrade greatly over time. I'm just thinking what's going to happen if a micrometeorite, like, for instance, hits a rocket engine with a a hydrogen line going to it. Like, there's the risk of hydrogen fire up in the mesosphere. How the fuck are we going to sort that out? Like, I don't know. You can like have valves like isolating bits of the tube up there, the pipe, making it safe in case it is compromised in some way. Is there a material we can build out of that can resist meteorites coming in at 40,000 kilometers an hour? But then again, like, all hope is not lost. You know, I'm going to take my time with this. I'm not going to work ruthlessly on it, but I am going to work hard on it. I'm going to spend every spare moment on it, I think, but it's not going to be the only thing I do. And I'm going to prepare, I'm going to do the necessary preparation for the conference, and I'm going to make that my priority, just getting that sorted. I think I've put in a good amount of practice so far with it. But, you know, and not trying to solve all the problems at once, and take my time with it, and, you know, if something's worth doing, it's worth doing slowly, and everything like this takes a lot of time, and research and development, and back of this behind the scenes work, and thinking as well, and careful thought, to get everything correct with the plan of how to do it. Because it's not going to happen overnight at all. But it is the future. And I think it's a necessary part of the future. If we want to become an interplanetary species, which is what we're doing. We've got into the moon, but we're not interplanetary yet. Not with manned missions anyway, like I think we should be. We've got rovers on Mars, but that's all. Getting humans on there is a much bigger challenge. And it's one that, like Elon Musk at SpaceX hasn't really fully fleshed out. He doesn't have a real plan to get to Mars and to get back again. That's the major issue. So, yeah, I think the space elevator is going to be necessary to get to Mars and back. And 2040 is a pretty good-ish time frame to get this done by. It allows us to fuck up if failure occurs before then. If we hit dead ends with certain ideas, then we have to sort of accept that and try and find something new. If something essential is compromised on it in the general plan, in the scheme of this thing, then we have to know about it, try and fix it, try and imagine our way around the problem if we can, and by giving a 14-year time scale on this thing, that it sort of allows us to do that, if you see what I mean. I think it does. Otherwise, well, if it turns out to be impossible, I don't know, like, the principle of it is sound. The other thing about it is this, like, if we can get this working, the first generation of space elevator working, I suppose we could fatten it out arbitrarily, almost, and just put like new cables along it and new lift systems. Because, well, do you see that? Maybe we can do that. And like, the more we do fatten it out, the more robust it will be. That's the other possibility I'm thinking. So maybe we could get really a stunningly large amount of stuff to space and back using this segmented space transport system, the SSTS. And there'll be a few different ones around the globe, like China and Japan will probably have one each. We'll have one in the West somewhere, probably in the United States, I think, in the areas where there are the fewest storms. But yeah, this is the thing I want to work on. Yeah, this is my path in life, I think, or part of it. I never expected to be doing this sort of thing. and to be devoting a lot of my time to think about space elevators and trying to build this device, this huge machine. But what a thrilling life I lead, and I'm so thankful for it. You know, and I'm thankful for you guys for watching my videos, for giving me the occasional like. It means a lot to me. You know, I love talking, and I love talking about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and yeah, the STEM fields, and learning every day, which I do. Thinking creatively about things like engineering and physics, and yeah, these are also creative disciplines. I mean, engineering is obviously creative, and science is not really seen as creative, but analytical and deductive. But it really is creative as well, in terms of, you know, the models we build of natural phenomena, the insight we can potentially have into it. It's all creative stuff, really. I mean, if you ever like seen the colour version of the inside of a cell from an electron microscope, or scanning tunneling electron microscope, like, it's like an acid trip. That's what the fundamentals of life are like. It's like something you see on an acid trip. It's bizarre, so bizarre, so fascinating. It's almost impossible for me not to do these sorts of things. I sort of have to on a level. I'm sort of like compelled to by my own psyche. It's just compulsive thought brings up these ideas, and I have to run with it because it's like it might make the world a far better place. You know, I'm sure it'll throw up problems as well, but it's like computer technology, isn't it? Coming up with that. You know, this will have some great. There'll be great technological innovations as a result of doing this. I just know that. But it will create some problems, I'm sure. You know, it's like the internet. Stunning leap forward. Amazing technology. Instantaneous almost access to information. Talk to anyone on the globe via video link, and like the social media, and like a world of problems associated with it. And then people say, oh, why did they invent the internet? Oh, we don't need that shit. We need to go back to living in mud and burning witches and the plague and whatnot in the medieval period, where it was so much better, wasn't it? That's what people fucking say, some people. But Jesus Christ, like they go a fucking day without their smartphones, really. So troubling, so much potential, such big challenges, such great prospect of reward though. Not just for myself. I mean, hopefully I'll be rewarded with a life of reasonable comfort while I do these things, and like enough money and things. You know, not necessarily an ostentatious life where I just sit around in a mansion like Daniel Plainview from There Will Be Blood, shooting his expensive dinner plates with a shotgun and going mad in a mansion. But like, I don't want that like Scrooge McDuck life. I really don't. But I do want to go to space. I do want to see Jupiter up close and things like that. That's the sort of thing that inspires me. But and on Earth, I would like a nice-ish house, and a garden, and a cat and a dog, and things like that, and a family, frankly. But I don't, you know, and enough money always. I think most people, if they're willing to work hard and contribute to society, they should be rewarded with at least enough money and a comfortable-ish life, or a comfortable life. That just goes without saying, I think. You know, if they really are like a fucking drunken layabout and they haven't got their lives together, then they should be helped to get their lives together and cut out the drugs and the booze and the whatever else that's holding them back. Maybe encouraged to get in shape a bit and look after their mental health. If they're eating shit, if they've got a shit diet, maybe like help them with that and so on and so forth, and rehabilitate them and make them into useful members of society, and then give them the reward for that usefulness. And just be fucking nicer to one another. But this is a great project. I will see it done if I can. And I'm going to give it my all, I think. But, well, I think about it all the time anyway, so I sort of am giving it my all. You know, I need other people to assist me with it. Because there'll be things I just won't have thought of, that someone else will have thought of. So if you think you can help, please get in touch with me somehow. In the comments if you like, and send me an email at fcwindtunnel@gmail.com, etc.